Good morning. My name is Linda Mulhall, and I'm a member of Fairfield United Church. My sister-in-law, Louise, is my fashion consultant, and she says a set of pearls can set off a very plain outfit, even a pair of jeans. So this morning, we're actually dealing with the parable of the pearl of great price. We've been exploring parables because Jesus, as a rabbi, often used them. In the Jewish tradition, when people asked rabbis questions, they would often respond with a story or another question or a parable. He doesn't give direct answers, and you have to ask why. Anne Lamott, the author, puts it very succinctly. Jesus is messing with people's minds, paradoxically out of love, so they will dig deep into truth, where they may find themselves and love. That is the kingdom. He wants us to question, to think, to go deep into ourselves for meaning and answers. Sounds like an adult faith to me. So as you listen to the parable, allow the story to land in your heart. Notice where you feel pulled. Notice what strikes your own soul, and allow the questions to arise. The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, he went back and sold all that he had and bought it. As we listen to the parables with our 21st century minds and hearts, it's also important to place them in the historical context. Otherwise, we can't know why Jesus may have chosen certain images and how the audience might have received them. A little bit about pearls. In Jesus' time, pearls were very precious. They actually were priced above rubies. Unlike today, and these cultured pearls that my family purchased for me for my birthday, in Jesus' time, there were no cultured pearls. What Matthew was talking about are wild pearls that came right from the ocean, from oysters. So for the shepherd, a carpenter, or the population of Nazareth, they would never have seen a pearl. No pearls for the common folk. And so really these were very, very precious and beyond the reach of ordinary people. Something they might never have seen, something they could only imagine. And then we have the seeking merchant. Contrary to how we may see merchants today, merchants were not very popular among the Galileans of Jesus' time. They weren't to be trusted. To become a merchant wasn't necessarily a great career move. And in this parable, the merchant is doing what merchants do. He was actually pursuing a product, purchasing it, and then he would be remarketing it for a profit. It's how he made his living. He isn't even looking for one precious pearl. He's looking generally for pearls. He's simply seeking, not knowing what he's looking for. And yet, in this unconscious seeking, he comes upon a magnificent pearl. And he recognizes the unique value of this pearl. He liquidates everything that he has in order to buy it. He invests all his resources and possessions to obtain what he seeks. Unlike the disciples, he didn't sell the pearl in order to then give the money to the poor. No, he sells everything in order to possess the pearl. And he doesn't get lots of pearls, only one. He impoverishes himself in order to acquire something of extreme value, which he might admire and display, but he can't live from it unless he sold it again. So the merchant really takes a risk. Can you imagine selling your house, your car, everything you possess for a priceless pearl? His actions may seem unwise and foolhardy. And the thing is, once he possesses the pearl, he's no longer a merchant. He loses his former identity. He becomes a possessor of a priceless pearl, but he is a merchant no longer. Why does Jesus use such an unsavory character to be his protagonist? He could have said the kingdom of heaven is like a holy man or a rabbi in search of the beloved one. But nope, he chooses an unlikely seeker. With this protagonist, Jesus gets the crowd's attention. You can imagine them whispering, "Why would he choose that guy to be a seeker? Why not a rabbi or some holy person?" No, the person who finds the pearl is somewhat of a crass person, an outcast. And let's remember that the parable begins with, "The kingdom of heaven is like." What does Jesus mean by the kingdom? The kingdom in the parable is not the pearl, and it's not the merchant per se. The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking and not even knowing what he's looking for until it shows up, and then he recognizes it. The kingdom of heaven is like searching for something that you've never seen before. The kingdom of heaven is like taking an incredible risk and being foolhardy. The kingdom of heaven is not a thing. We can't commodify it, and we can't buy it. But the kingdom of heaven might be more like an action. The process of seeking, of being alert, and noticing when something precious and worthy of our energy shows up, and then responding to the work of grace as we risk everything. In the merchant's seeking, he stumbles onto something he didn't even know he was longing for. And that process is the inbreaking of the kingdom. How often have we found ourselves seeking, longing, waiting, watching, and sometimes risking everything? Life can be quite frustrating at times. I know for myself, I feel like I never seem to get there wherever there is, and there keeps eluding me. And yet the Rabbi Jesus says, this very frustrating process of seeking opens our lives to the inbreaking of the kingdom of love, the reign of creativity, and the opportunity of co-creating with the great mystery. What does this mean for us today? I think the parable really validates the importance of longing and desire, of listening to our frustrations and sorrows, and then listening underneath that to our deep longings. It involves listening to the answer to this question: what would you give your eye teeth for? During COVID, we have all been challenged to live with what is. And women and mothers have borne the burden of COVID more than others. For women, COVID has meant working from home and at the same time homeschooling children. Probably if I'd asked during the summer, what would you give your eye teeth for? There may have been answers such as, I'd give anything to get my kids back to school for their sakes and for my own sanity. And underneath that, a really deep desire. I need to use my own talents and skills. I need to feel like I'm contributing. And maybe underneath that, I need to be doing work that feeds me. So you begin to see this pearl of great price emerge out of our longings and desires. These are such valid needs and wants and desires. They are part of us, and they inspire us to be creative and to take risks. You can see as we follow the thread of our needs and wants that we can get deeper to find the longing that is underneath. We come to something essential, the pearl of great price. And of course, the seeking seems to be continuous. We may be longing at one point for a new job, and then at another point for spiritual development or enlightenment. And there are ever-changing goals that seem to be in our minds. But if we take time to listen to our deep selves, we will find underneath our craving, our seeking, that there is a pearl of great price. We may realize that what we are actually seeking is meaning, belonging, love, recognition, connection. Will we know what we truly want when we see it? And when we see it, will we be willing to go after it, to go all in for it? Jesus, the teacher, through this parable, is continually asking us to prioritize. What's most important? What is your pearl of supreme value? For what would you sell everything you own? For what would you take a drastic, life-changing step? The Sufi mystic Rumi advises us that we need to dig deep to find the essence of what we long for. And he says, how could you reach the pearl by only looking at the sea? If you seek the pearl, be a diver. How could you reach the pearl by only looking at the sea? If you seek the pearl, be a diver. We live in a very challenging time. Let us not lose hope. Let us continue to search, to seek even when we may not know specifically what we are looking for. This process of continually seeking and remaining watchful, of being willing to risk for the sake of the pearl of great price, this is the kingdom breaking into our lives. Parables are an invitation to come to know ourselves and our world more deeply. What if the inbreaking of the kingdom of heaven is made possible through not giving up, but continuing to search, through remaining observant and being willing to risk? May it be so.